legendary mix today, WUFO and Power 96.5. It's conversation with Jim Anderson. And now, your host, Jim Anderson. Good morning, Buffalo. It's great to be here. I am not Jim, I am Austin, but it's a pleasure to be here on this great morning. Problems, being willing to take up the mantle and lead us into where we need to get to. So I'm going to give Jim a chance to say hello, and then we'll let the guest introduce himself today.
All right. Hey, everywhere. Yeah, world, because that's where we're reaching. Like I like to say, it's like medicine over there, and if you take it, we're going to get well, and we are going to get well. Just know that. Hey, I'm with Austin, my great co-host, as you know, and I'm flying with him and the guests we have. And I'm going to mess up his name. I'm not going to mess up his name. I'm going to say it. I got it. Tendaji Yauku.
Yes.
He is the ecological. Yeah, ecological coordinator for OpenBuffalo. And the work he's doing should not be a stranger to anybody. You just feel the heat and just think about some of the conditions we've been going through and have gone through with soil. And you're going to really need to zero in and listen well to the three areas he's mainly going to be covering, and that is clean mobility. If you don't know what that means, listen in, because it is serious. We're gonna talk about the mobility, and we're gonna talk about ecological justice. And so me and Austin both, please, Austin.
I'm super excited. And one thing I want to talk on before we go into these three main talking points, Mr. Tendaji. Just Tendaji got it right. I recognize that it's you working and partnering with OpenBuffalo. It's not OpenBuffalo isn't your whole reason for living. So before we get into the three topics, first, can we just talk about you, how you're doing today, and what led you to have such a passion to fix the city you live in?
Wow. Okay, we started. So good morning, everybody. Like they said, my name is Tendaji Yauku. I'm the Ecological Justice Coordinator for OpenBuffalo. I've been there for 3 months now. And what got me into like environmental work and being a part of improving communities and working to give people access to clean water, air, land, shelter, is that I'm someone who grew up in the South Bronx. And if you don't know, in New York City, the South Bronx is plagued by a lot of different issues, whether it be sanitation, environmental racism, and food insecurity, poverty, discrimination.
Buffalo.
Right. And just coming from, the South Bronx, the boogie down, I just wanted to be somebody who worked with community members to be able to come up with community-led solutions to these problems.
That's super exciting to hear. And it's even greater to hear that you came from a different community and saw our issues and wanted to make a change on them, because it's almost the same almost where you go. It looks a little different, the context changes, but the same issues that you have in New York City are going to show in some way, shape, or form in other cities. And so to take up, again, that mantle and say, I want to change it is a big thing. One thing that Jim talked about when we first started, we talked about the term clean mobility. And a hard issue you can attest when you're dealing in fields that people don't really know what words mean all the time is that a big issue is awareness, explaining why it matters and what it is. So can you give us, a listener, a basic overview, the spark notes, the simple breakdown of what clean mobility means, and more importantly, why we should be getting out of our seats, why we should be so focused on making sure we see clean mobility in our city?
Yeah, so clean mobility is the biggest project that I'm currently working on. To give you like a simple version of what clean mobility is, it's just means of transportation, developing investments, specifically on the east side of Buffalo, where these transportation systems, no matter whether it looks like public transportation, the bus, the rail, walking, biking, shared mobility, carpooling, whatever the option is, these are transportation options that we're trying to invest in that do not harm people's health and do not harm the environment that we all live in.
And what is the importance of that? Because I think sometimes what happens, like I said, in these fields is, we'll say, oh yeah, that's important. We want that in our city, but all I'm thinking about is the car I got outside. I'm just trying to scoot to my little corner store in my car. So why is that so important for us to have in our communities, to allow us to truly build a community that's deeper than just what we see?
Yeah, I think that's very real. I think that, people definitely need cars, because it's convenient. Especially on the east side where people don't have readily accessible transportation, or economic opportunities just to, hop over to get to, whether it's childcare, school, work. I think that we need to understand that there are certain people who don't have access to cars, who can't afford their car payments or can't afford their insurance, but rely on public transportation. They take the bus to work every day, they ride the bike to get to school, and take a lift to access childcare. So just making sure that people who struggle with mobility throughout the city of Buffalo have access to all the different transportation options that are available and have it accessible and affordable for them.
Let me add a little piece more to that, because listeners, what you need to understand about clean mobility, yes, it means scooters. And if you look around the community, you see many elderly and those who have either a developmentally disability or some kind of injury that they can't walk, are required to use those scooters. And so we're still in the development of making the city bicycle friendly, but we have to think larger and make it those scooter friendly too. And, it's hard to break a habit that you have, as you mentioned, about people's cars on the street. Sometimes you think you own the streets, but let's get real. The streets are owned by pedestrians and all forms of clean mobility that are needed in these times. And so it is important that we recognize it, because we are the front line on this issue too. You can go into better off communities, appreciation, the getting around, even the businesses are acclimated to make sure they can get in. It's more than just having a handicap entrance. But to get in the store, they need to be able to get around and not sit up in the door in the front lobby. But anyway, I just want to tag that a little bit.
And something I want to talk about as well, I think that people may forget, is when you talk about clean mobility affects all of us. There's doctors that ride bikes, right? There's surgeons that walk to work. Everybody that has a car doesn't need to be in a car, and everybody that's walking doesn't have to walk. And so I think recognizing that, you can see how a walkable city, why are people packing up and moving to Massachusetts and moving to these little towns, coastal shacks, and these, because they want a community where it feels like I can walk through and feel the life of this community. And when you have communities that aren't walkable, whether you need the walkability transport or not, when you have a community that's not walkable, it limits how much you can take in the community. How much do you really know your community if you've ever only seen it through a passenger side window? How much do you know your community if you've only ever driven past it? You never walked by it. And even going into different avenues or different professions, when we look at policing, what was the change of policing? Police don't walk communities anymore. They don't have a hand on the pulse of a community like they used to. But just like we expect the police to, how can we raise awareness on issues? How can we fight and vote for things that we have no context for? We're no better than the politicians that we shame for not living in their districts that they're presiding over. So I think that clean mobility is deeper than just the people that can't, or that, we think about, I have a car, so I'm good. Yeah, you have a car, but do you always want to use it? Or maybe you want E and you just need a candy bar from the corner store and you don't really want to go get some more gas.
Maybe you should use it, because the other factor of that is the kind of green gas emissions from these cars. So it's a health impact to not have a clean mobility community. Whether you got the scooters or the bicycles or not, you need a community that has transportation that is in line with this whole renewable energy approach and this better quality of life for all people on the health scene.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I think a lot of people don't understand this, specifically on the east side, that, as predominantly Black communities, climate change and greenhouse gas emissions and us not, having access to like solar energy, clean mobility options, disproportionately impacts us the most. We're the people who have to bear the brunt of living close to factories, who have to bear the brunt of, gas emissions and highways built right in the middle of our neighborhoods. So it's important that we be at the forefront of creating these community-led solutions so that we can live in safer, cleaner communities.
This is awesome. Hey, listen, you guys, let's wrestle here. I don't mean wrestle, but listeners, you can tell we all have a lot to say around this. And the thought comes to mind that the real problem why we don't have a stronger movement towards that, because communities, some of y'all sitting around listening rather than being on the line to help demand these things. When we look in well-to-do communities that look healthy, that sometimes some folks like to move there, nothing wrong with that. But let's look at a real problem, because if we don't deal with it in this part of the community, it will spread. You can't just, if you don't have it in this part of the community, whatever is the damage from it environmentally and medically will spread in ways that people don't even imagine now. So this is serious business, folks. This is not entertainment. This is about entertainment, about what we're talking about.
And transportation, something I want to comment on. I didn't grow up in Buffalo. I grew up right outside of Buffalo, but public transport wasn't big where I lived either. So luckily I had a bike, and me and my friends were biking around like we were in a Ironman or something. We were biking around all the time like the Tour de France. But that being said, for kids that didn't have access to a bike, you were limited by how far you could walk. And how does that impact the youth and development? What do we always talk about is so big: exposure, education, seeing things. I got friends right now who don't know what it's like 10 minutes up the road because they've never been there. They don't go on buses. Why? Because buses ain't safe. You get got at bus stops. So we're not going on buses, right? I'm walking, but I can only walk so far because I got to walk back. I can't drive because I can't even get to the DMV to get my permit, because we don't have DMVs where he stay at. So now it limits how much you can expose and how much you can grow. So I think as a young person, providing that, we're both, but that 19 perspective, I think what I see when you talk about a walkable community is a community that I can live in and I can grow with the community. Like when you get a job, right? When you first get your first job as a cashier, and you're not really looking to grow with that company. When you're talking about a company, a career you want to stay at, a place you want to stay at, that's where it has the room to fit where I'm going to grow, because we think we're going to get big. I hope I'm going to get big. I would have a bigger impact. But as my needs grow, or as my what I want to do grows, what I need to support me grows. I need a bigger team. I need a bigger environment, a bigger field to support the crop that I'm trying to give. And so the issue is, what I'm seeing and what you're working on combating is, because we don't have access to things, we're stuck in our bubble. And if you look in the Bible, you can't be a prophet in your own land. And your own land is subjective. It may just be your block. But if you've never seen the block over, that's your world. So we got people living in a city confined to their world of a block because they simply can't get access or have no way to get further than that. And as a young person, that's frustrating, because to me, right, we talk about equality starting at the same line. To me, that's a form of, you're starting in a cage. We got people in zoos. We got a Buffalo Zoo, because it is like a zoo almost. You take an animal out of a cage, what do? Marvel. Ooh, they're going insane. Why do we have people that when they move, they go a different neighborhood over, they feel like they don't even know where they are? That's not how a community that I want to live in should be ran. If we talk about building community for the future, where people don't pack up and leave, right now Buffalo is a place people pack up and leave from. You get it here and you leave. You get it here, you get out. When you live in a community where people get up and get out, we can't build a community that we want to love to live in.
Dig it. We're going to go to a break and we'll be back, and then we're going to come in. When we come back, we're going to hit on the whole soil sampling, as well as the ecological justice, and a whole lot more. So stay with us. Join us at 716-837-1112. We'll be back. How you holding up? We're still live. We're still live. So we keeping it respectful. Ain't no slips off air for it. But as you can see, there's so many outlets to the work you're doing. And this is the major part that confronts you about doing it in a community where the work hasn't been as forwarding as it should be. And I think we having you on today is a call to the rest of the community. Come,
Right.
let us reason together how we together, I'm talking about all you environmental justice groups, all of you concerned about the water, the land, those of you who are even doing farming. You need to, inner city farming, you need to understand the importance of soil sampling. And because of the horrendous past that have been kind of a lot of verbiage in the community about the area of Grider and East Ferry, there's still some people who think that the land there is contaminated and don't understand how you remediate land to get it back in play. And even in that, to do it in a way so everybody have a chance at getting, if it's up for purchase. But there's so much, and even around America, former American Axle, all around there, where people are concerned that something is in the soil. So soil sampling is going to be another deep part of this. And I mean, look, you got a roundhouse of important subjects.
Well, what kind of initiatives are you guys actually doing? Like when I look at communities like the West Side over where Lancaster is, like they have juice bars. You don't see McDonald's in certain neighborhoods. You don't see Burger King. So it's like the community, but it's also those, like what initiatives are you guys doing? Are you teaching on farming and things of that nature too?
Yeah, so we're looking to expand.
We're back, and we go ahead. Finish. You can finish. Yeah, we were in the midst of a little on the break question, and roll it again.
Yeah, I just want to know, like specifically. Oh, the people got here.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Lord. Okay. Specifically, what kind of initiatives is Open Buffalo doing? Like, I know we could talk about things, but like I said, I'll see certain communities, even on the West Side. I was surprised. I was invited to a meeting that was off of Niagara Street, and they literally in the middle of a neighborhood had a restaurant that was farm to table. People come there and they volunteer. And it's a cafe. And I'm like, I didn't even know this was here, but there weren't people that looked like us that were there, but it was in the heart of the West Side, not the pretty Elmwood revitalized. It was like over in Niagara Street that I thought it was a forgotten neighborhood that feels like it's being gentrified.
Yeah.
How are initiatives specifically like that happening on the East Side to educate and serve and provide resources for those communities?
Yeah, I'm talking about this. So I'm gonna give a little intro into what Open Buffalo is. I know a lot of people are like, where do you work? So Open Buffalo is a community organization that advances racial, economic, and ecological justice. We do that through focusing on leadership development, youth empowerment, skill building, and networking. And we give everyday Buffalonians, Western New Yorkers, the tools that they need in order to identify the issues in their community and be able to come up with those community-based solutions. So to speak to what you were saying, we can see the vast disparity between the West and the East Side. And that's predominantly because of the demographics that exist within those areas. We can see how the West Side is predominantly white, but then there's also pockets of Latinx communities, and how the East Side is predominantly Black, and how systemic racism and disinvestment have worked to create booming businesses on the West Side and businesses on the East Side that are dilapidated and are closing left and right. And I think that we have to work towards creating an understanding of how we develop commercial corridors on the East Side. How are we able to sustain investments so that businesses have the resources to stay open, and not only stay open, but serve the community in a meaningful way, and have the community mutually benefit that business so that we can all create a cooperative economics to just help, keep those investments on the East Side.
I have one other question. I'm so sorry. And then I'm gonna be done with my off comment. So there's programs like Startup New York. And then as a business owner myself, right now, I'm looking for office space. And I think and M&T is about to run a program, right, near Canisius. And what I don't understand is how we don't educate our people to know non-traditional businesses to open that are fundable. So for example, you know, when you look at our communities, we do what we know. So I'm going to open a hair salon, but you're not showing me a wood spa in Williamsville, how to open up a full service where the price per person costs the same amount if you go to one of these other nail shops as if you go there, but the experience is different. You don't teach us how to open a clean energy tech company to open on the on the east side, because I don't even know that those businesses exist. Right now, I was telling my son, we were driving down one street and I said, you see that business right there? You know what they create? Cat plugs. You know what cat plugs are? Do you know what they are?
No.
If you work in manufacturing and you build something, it can't have water access it. So you have to plug all the things. And there's a multi-million-dollar company building cat plugs. If I wasn't an engineer, I wouldn't even know what a cat plug is. So we don't even know the businesses that are fundable to bring the money into our communities. And so I'm asking, when you're doing your programs for youth or leadership, and this is my little thing that I stand on, we're not even helping us understand what we don't even know to ask the question about, to be more conscious in a tangible way, to build a business in our communities that people will want to fund that's ecologically safe or green or clean energy. We don't even know what that means. So can you help me understand the specific programs that your organization would do to touch into that? Because I think that's then how you start the solutions. I don't even know why I'm talking on the radio, so that has nothing to do with me.
No, this is right.
But I'm gonna stop talking because I really want to know the answer to that, because that's my frustration as a person that tries to educate people that look like us. I say, set your business up to grow, to be sellable, that doesn't just use your heads, it uses your head. Because your hands can't outwork your head. It's impossible. Millions can't be made from your hands. You could think about it, but you break your hand and your business is gone. That's what happens to us in our community. So for your organization on this topic, how are we promoting ideas like this in our communities so that we can be educated enough to even have that value proposition when those funding models are there to take advantage of the bigger thing, not just talking about it? So I just want to know specifically around that. That was a lot of information.
I'm looking forward to your comments. I got some comments about it, but I'm Tendaji.
So I think a lot of what you said is very real and exists. So many disparities that exist on the east side that prevent us from being able to access the education to run successful businesses. And I think that OpenBuffalo, leading heavily on the economic justice part of it, we operate out of a just transition lens. So just transition is a way in which we move from our oppressive capitalistic society and move more towards cooperative economics, where we're working towards utilizing our resources strategically, so that when we utilize resources, they're not harming the health of our communities. So that when we are developing businesses, they're developing cooperatives rather than individual businesses, so that we're not operating in silos. We're operating as a community and developing businesses that work for community members. And I think that a specific program that we're working on is clean mobility. So we're working to develop a group of 25 community members or residents of the East Side, or people with a deep connection to the East Side, where they're going to be the ones giving their input as to where they want to see investments for clean mobility. So are there businesses that are trying to bring scooters to the East Side? How are those scooters going to benefit the community? Are those scooters going to be placed along commercial corridors to help support other Black-owned businesses on the East Side? So we're just trying to work deeply in understanding what are the needs of the community, where do people want to see these options, how can we better serve people, so that we can have thriving businesses and are not in threat of foreclosure or bankruptcy, because we don't have community members that are, organized to support these businesses and to sustain investments on the East Side.
Right on. And I want to tell you, Latasha, what you just raised is a need, and the raising of that need is what creates the necessity for response to it. And there is some of that going on. I'll give some contact information at Push Buffalo, which can help you on that, looking for location piece. in a place that is ecologically in the right fit and conscious all the way through. But I want to say the work that Open Buffalo is doing is finite in the most desperate parts of our community. And the housing and the community in which they're looking at doesn't dismiss what you spoke to about businesses. It's just that in the framework and what they've been not only granted but focused on did not include a robust piece to answer that. But in your raising it, it raised the consciousness to everybody listening that yes, we want Black businesses, but we need to make sure they get environmentally friendly and correct location and not some hustled up place that in their wanting to get their business launched, they get put in an entity that is not healthy for them or for the community. I'm glad you raised it, and I hope you don't never hold back on those points. Right now, that's an intersectional point. We've been looking at everyday people, and we got business in mind, but to the depth that you mentioned the need that exists. Listen, folks, you've heard it. Now we got to figure out what I say we because it takes a whole community. And that's, again, that was a very important point.
Trying to tell y'all, I don't just come from nowhere. I get it from my parents. But moving past, I know we spent a lot of time on clean mobility, but it's not all that Open Buffalo does. So I don't want to stifle the other work that you're doing. So can you touch on, I know we touched on it a little bit on the break, the importance of soil sampling in our communities?
Yes, so we are starting a project where we're giving free resources to people on the east side to both sample their soil in their yards if they're a homeowner, getting written confirmation if they're a renter, serving both communities, and then also working with Buffalo State University to screen their soil and be transparent in giving them that data. And this is important because we understand Buffalo's industrial history and how many of communities on the east side have been built in and around industrial factories, whether it be steel or concrete or car manufacturing parts that have emitted a slew of heavy metal contaminants, of polychlorinated biphenyls, which harm human health. And we're talking about lead and how lead impacts young folks, old folks, how it creates health disparities on the east side. And we just want to make sure that we're giving community members the resources to be able to not only sample their soils, get a screen to see what type of contaminants are there, but then create impact reports so that we can challenge legislators in New York to create resources to remediate their soil.
And when you talk about lead and the other, I don't want to botch the word you use, it was a large word. We talk about lead and other contaminants that are in our soil, in our communities. I think sometimes the hard part is going back to what I talked about earlier, is awareness. When it doesn't hit home to that heart piece, people don't want to get up and sample their soil because why? So can you touch on some of the effects or dangers of these contaminants in the soils and why it's so important that instead of saying, I'll get to it tomorrow, you get to it today?
Yeah. Even when I was canvassing with one of our community liaisons, we kind of got a feel for how community members feel about soil sampling. And a lot of people don't see it as an urgent thing because they don't understand the dangers of living in a place where heavy metals like lead, chromium, nickel are in your soil. It prevents you from being able to have food sovereignty and grow your own food. You can't grow root vegetables if you have heavy metal contaminants in your soil. You can't have your kids play out in the yard if there's lead, either paint chips, lead chips coming down from your house or even in the soil. So it's important to understand how all these different things that exist within East Buffalo and many other, Black neighborhoods impact our health and impede our ability to thrive in our daily lives.
And it's the education. When we look in our community on most of the cutting edge issues, the information that people need to stir them into action has not been provided to them. and other communities moved on with the information, getting resources, have gotten a huge jump start as we look at the solar industry and the kind of equipment that is available now. And then when you factor in, because this other thing is the issue of racism. And some people might say, well, it's not like it before. Well, it ain't racism light. I mean, you still got people who are in jobs that don't pay a living wage, and we still got people where they have jobs where they're demanded to put in ridiculous hours. Now, people don't want to say that, but this is a community issue. We cannot allow stuff like that to be. A large part of why the community isn't resonated, somebody gotta teach. What does the book say? How will the people hear without a preacher? You know, and we're in a community where we're supposed to be so full of faith. Have we forgotten that the earth, all of it, and everything in it belongs to him? We say we with him. And, you know, like he said, well, then feed my sheep, you know, take care of my land. All right. I see. We got an answer to that. I ain't trying to go to church or you on there, but I'm just trying to tell you that is real. If we want a clean, healthy community like we see others, it starts with us people in the community. This is the hard part about helping people move forward beyond the stuckedness about not being included. Don't feel shame. Don't feel embarrassed. People figure, well, if I'm not a brainiac on it, you know, no, that's the reason why you need to be involved.
And one thing I don't want to forget, I know this is so important because whenever I'm part of a group, someone that's trying to build awareness of something or make a change, the big piece I always try to hammer home is what can we do about it? What are the next steps? If I'm a listener right now and I'm saying, yeah, I know what he's talking about. I don't want contaminants in my soil. I want a soil sample. If I'm saying, no, I want clean mobility, what are ways that people can get involved? What are some upcoming events for Open Buffalo that we need to be aware of and we need to be at because they'll be making a change?
Yeah, so for clean mobility, we're choosing the neighborhood leadership group now. So if you want to be a volunteer, you can apply on our website. We have all the information at openbuffalo.org. But we just finished up a soil sampling training last Friday. So if you didn't catch that, we're going to be doing them monthly in the Delavan Grider community. But we're also going to be sharing resources for it. If you want to pick up a free soil sampling kit, you can come to the Open Buffalo office at 1327 Jefferson Avenue. It's right across from the Frank Merriweather Library. Again, 1327 Jefferson Avenue. You can pick yourself up a free soil sampling kit.
And not to cut you off, but we do have a caller. Caller, you were on the air. Good morning.
Hold on. We want to turn you up. Okay. All right, caller. Turn your radio off. Turn your radio off. Turn your radio down, please. Do we get no feedback from you? Okay, caller. You got to turn it down, caller. Otherwise, we're gonna have to move on.
Good morning.
Go ahead. Uh-oh. Turn it up. Can you go ahead, caller?
Jim, if you're on, I can't hear at all.
All right. Okay, hang up and ring back. I'm not sure what the other piece is. Okay, we can hear you. Can you try now? Okay, sorry for that. I'm not sure why we're getting a reverb back, but we'll try you again. You go up or down. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, listeners, you can still call in. Meanwhile, we're going to keep rolling, and you just keep trying until you get through. It's live radio, and here come a call, and we'll see. You know, it could be the heat. You know,
Right.
Hey, all right, caller, you're on the air. Caller, we, yeah, we were trying to call in. Don't listen to your radio. When you hear me say you're on the air, you should start talking. And caller, you're on the air.
Go ahead.
Caller, go ahead and speak.
Jim, good morning.
There you are.
And I can't hear you either. But I'm going to pose the question.
Great.
In light of the fact that there's so much violence within our community, how does environmental justice fit into the discussion this morning? How is it relevant in light of the fact that there is an enormous amount of violence taking place, especially with young people? And how do we explain environmental justice as it relates to crime within our community? And I'm going to hang up and listen to you since I can't hear you over the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that crime and environmental justice are intertwined. I think that it's the same reason why we don't value other people's lives is the same reason why we don't value nature. I think it's important to create opportunities for youth, especially where they can be engaged within, organizing for their community, advocating for their community concerns to get them out of the route of having to, rob a store to feed themselves. Right? We have to create economic opportunities for them so where they don't have to be forced into a life of crime. So where their only opportunities are not to join a gang or sell drugs to feed themselves and feed their families. So I think that in creating these opportunities for repairing the environment and repairing the different things that exist within our communities that harm our health, we can create those opportunities to dissuade them from having to be forced into a life of crime.
I side with that, and I'll add a additional plus to that, because I think our community, in a large part, has become overly focused on those who are in inappropriate behavior and committing these things. Not that we shouldn't look at how to harness them into a better way, but at the same time, we have to have a higher level of programs to address young people who are ready. The larger number of young people in our community are looking for opportunities for them to bring their gifts, and they got a lot of them. The problem is many of our organizations haven't made room for them, and when they do, rather than helping them to learn more, give them a broom. I'm not against everybody having a broom, including adults, to clean up, but we need to be educating and being educated by our young people. Do you know they're the bearers of the new knowledge, the new skills, and we have not allowed a greater teaching opportunity from their perspective? That's just part of my thought. When we get more programs that are level, that address both populations, those who are in a little trouble zone and those who are just trying to make it down the good road, doing the right thing, they need focus too. So I would say, yes, the larger number of are good, ready to get down young folks.
Right, and I think that I think we have a caller potentially coming in, so before I go on my point. Caller, you are on the air.
You're on the air, caller. We're not hearing them. So until we do get through, let's continue on. Okay, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I'm listening to your program, and I want to know what kind of resources is available out there. I have patents on several inventions, and I want to start a program for people that looks like me, because I gave a class one day with a patent attorney, so people can get patents and inventions. But I want to start a program on getting their products made.
You know what? I'd like to follow up with you on that and see where what connections I can think of. And I'm gonna give you a number. Everybody know it, but I'm gonna give you a number and you call me later. You ready?
Okay.
716 903
903
5648.
5648.
Jim. Okay, we'll talk then.
Okay, Jim, thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
Touch on, there's another part of your programming you want to talk about, I know.
Absolutely. I know what I was going to talk about wasn't even that interesting, to be honest. But moving on, because I know we're pressed for time and we're trying to get to everything you want to have on the docket. You talked about ecological justice. I know we've been touching on it, hitting it here and there, but it's one thing to talk about it from the masses. We want to hear it from a scientist. We want to hear it from the expert. What is ecological justice and how is it bigger than just clean mobility? How is it bigger than just social sampling? But how does ecological justice and injustice affect our communities deeper than we see, and how can we fight against it?
I'm glad that you brought that up because we're actually trying to launch ecological justice or environmental justice workshop for community members, or we could tailor it to community organizations, businesses. We just want people to understand what it means to value the resources that we have access to, why it's important to have clean water, to have clean air, to have access to quality education and jobs and healthcare. What climate change means, why it's important, how is it impacting why is it impacting us, and then also what's its context to Buffalo and Western New York. So when we talk about the environment, what is Buffalo's history, how is it impacting Black communities on the east side disproportionately, and just working through all those different ideas so that we have the knowledge to be able to understand environmental justice and then come up with those solutions to improve the quality of our neighborhoods.
Absolutely. This is awesome. I have to tell you, I'm looking forward to have more conversation with Open Buffalo. Same thing with Push Buffalo, the Western New York Youth Climate Committee, all of these entities that are working in some way, the same way as you are.
Right.
And I'm hoping that we can have a gathering of these type of organizations that we might really work together. I know everybody got their own way, but there's some united things that we can align on, and that's what it's about, us standing together, because otherwise they'll pick us off one by one and no one organization can do all the work that's needed. And by the way, you know, I know we got different sides of town, but let's be clear about something. Open Buffalo will go anywhere to help out, and so will Push Buffalo. Those who keep trying to make it seem like there's a purposeful difference in both sides of town, the issue is larger than sides of town. The issue is everywhere. So this takes everybody, you know, just like they said in the original climate march, this takes everybody. Well, right now it does. And if you're sitting on the side, I'll say it. They're not saying it. Shame on you. If you think somebody should fix it for you, shame on you. This is a serious program today. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Austin and Tendaji just, you know, continue on, because this is the front line of our future. I'm glad to be in the midst because of the intergenerational struggle. But I'm a little raw. They nice guys.
We do have another caller. Caller, you are on the air. Hello.
Good morning. How is everyone?
Marvelous.
Okay, the reason I was calling in and stuff like that, we as a people of color, centuries and even decades ago, we have to build up our own wealth in the community. Why? Because it was so prejudiced to us, the system. So we had no other choice but to open up our own stores and do everything. So as time go on, other foreigners, they came over here, we got tired, we got lazy, we didn't care, we let the stores go, and you got a lot of people from Bangladesh, Muslim, even Africans and Asians, they come over here and they build up wealth, and they build up their wealth in our neighborhood. Why? And like I said before, we had to do that centuries and decades ago because there was so much prejudice among our people. But what it is now and stuff like that, we can really do it though, but we have to get together, like block clubs, that we're talking community.
Thank you. Hey,
Get them,
did you finish? I'm sorry.
get the empty building and open them back up, store like, vegetables,
We're okay. We kind of, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We got you, but it's kind of fading. The last, we caught you on the first part, so we're gonna let them respond to you on it. If they have any thoughts, I got a thought, but
You know my voice. Though,
yes, I do. Yes, I do, Rochelle.
Yeah, I thought you brought up a really good point of how we've been facing racial discrimination for centuries now in the United States, and how that's impeded our ability to gain resources, to build power over one another, to have thriving businesses, to live in communities that are clean and that are safe. And I think that for us, we have to do the work to improve our community, to fight back against racial discrimination and oppression. I think that we can see how, even within our government, how our legislators have created laws and policies and practices, even like redlining, that has devastated our communities, how they have radically disinvested from our businesses, from our homes, from our communities, and how we need to be able to stand up as a community and do the work to help, what's the word I'm looking for? To remediate, to repair our communities.
Yeah. Did you want to weigh in on this?
I did, but I think we might have
Well, go
another
ahead and weigh in.
Okay, well, I'll weigh in a little bit. I feel like in communities where you talk about other groups coming in, and I think nobody gets exploited quite like the Black race. Nobody quite does it like us. And that's not a flex, but that's just a reality of what it is. But I think the difference is, and what we struggle with as a race, is we can't explain why should I open a store? And I want you to really think about this. Why should I open a store when all my favorite rappers and idols got Lamborghinis and I don't see the store owner with a Lamborghini? Why should I open a mechanic store? Why should I open a shop, an auto shop, when I'm trying to get it? I'm trying to get something bigger than this. If we can get back to explain why having a store is so important in a community, then we'll get more Black store owners. But right now, it's a disparity in the youth. And if we recognize that you're not going to be 60 opening up a store, probably. You're not going to be 70 opening up a store, but yet we don't invest and explain to the youth why it's important to have a store. We're gonna have a struggle, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now.
We're gonna take you on that. We're gonna take it. I got some. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, Dr. Doyle, again.
I know you don't have much time, but let me just say this. One of the things I've been doing as a retired educator is to encourage our young people. I want to thank Mr. Anderson for attending my 14th annual scholarship program Saturday.
Yes.
Which is named in honor of my late husband, Romeo Doyle Muhammad. 6 students were honored Saturday. They all have career goals. They're on their way to college in healthcare, technology, you name it. Mr. Anderson heard their essays.
Yes.
And I was able to give each student a $500 check. And let me say, I've been struggling with this for 14 years to come up with this money. I just want to put it out there. I'm a 77-year-old great-grandmother. I hope people will just encourage the young people who are doing positive things. Thank you for your program, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Doyle. Always a pleasure. I know time is running, but let me just make a comment about this racism piece. See, we talk about the racism that has existed in the past and that still exists today, but sometimes we do it like the weather people. Everybody giving the weather. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot. And it rained last night and all that. What we need is more people to look forward to the resolutions of that. We got to fast forward as a people and embrace humanity. Because, some people were given an advantage over us in an unfair way. But truth be told, there are a lot of the children of people like that who are on the right side of the issue with us. And so it means that we have to upgrade our mindset too. We know the horrors of what has happened to us as a people, but we're the people who have a history of building for the world. If we did it then, we can do it now. And let me remind you, Buffalo has to be look at itself just like when we talk about Tulsa, Alabama, Oklahoma. When we talk about Tulsa, a lot of people talk about Black Wall Street at its height. They don't talk about what it took to get there, the kind of seeds and the grains that grew them forward. They were operating in communities with programs, investing together. We can't get mad at those who are investing in their cultural businesses and building it out, because you got to look at who are the folks in our community who's selling their stores that couldn't sell it to someone of color. And where's the total voice of the community that demanded that our electeds make sure that some of our business, many of them, are owned by us? These people didn't walk here on their own. Somebody opened up the door. And it wasn't a villain by night. It was somebody we know and who's supposed to be served. I'm just keeping it real. We're going to talk more about that in the future, but I'm going to get it. We got about maybe 5, but we got 2 minutes. So there you go. Well, you know you got to come back. Yeah. And you know we're going to keep this conversation going because, listen, we know our community is still being seeded and having to store new people you like soil. We got to get you nourished enough that we can put some good seeds in. That's what we can't have no growth when you put seeds in soil that's not prepared. That's what the education is about.
I know we're about to wrap up. We got about a minute and a half now. So I'm going to say my little piece and give you the rest of the room to say any leaving words you want to say. Again, reiterating any important dates and maybe how we can get in touch with you in Open Buffalo. But it's been a pleasure to have you here. I didn't think I was going to be as invested in this topic as I am, but clean mobility for me is one of the biggest things, because if I can't control it, if everybody's gonna have a car, what can I control? I can control the city you live in, whether you have a car or not, can be navigated and traversed around. The better we do for that, the better I see the future turning, because the better the soil, the better the crops are gonna be. So it's been a pleasure to have you here, and the floor is yours for the last minute.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on this show and to talk about these very crucial issues that exist, not only on the east side of Buffalo, but all over Buffalo, all over Western New York. We've been having these issues. So if you're interested in getting involved, please feel free to contact me. My information is on OPEN, buffalo.org. There's my number, my email. You can get in touch with me. If you're interested in soil sampling and screening, please contact me. If you're interested in getting involved in clean mobility, if you have any environmental issues or concerns that exist within your neighborhood, please let me know. It is my entire job to ensure that people live in safe and clean communities. So please, please, please let me know. Thank you.
Hey, peace and love. We out of here, Austin.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Y'all have a great day. Thanks for tuning in and calling us. We'll be ready for you next week. Peace and love.